Earlier this year, I was doing affiliate marketing, and there was this beta group, 100 people. It was run by a man that has the same name as me, Adrian, and he was going to let 100 people into his beta group to test his new course that was teaching us how to do affiliate marketing. And he was going to take people from all around the world. There wasn't just people who had the biggest following or the most success. He was looking for people from different walks of life, different experience, different industries. And Adrian is someone who has a lot of integrity, a lot of authenticity. So I've been following his TikTok, his socials for a while, and I really resonated with his message. And, it's one of those things when someone announces a course and it happens to cross your attention at the perfect time, right? It's, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Yes, I need to get in. So in order to be considered for the beta group, so 100 people, and you got to figure that this guy is someone who has hundreds of thousands of followers, right? It wasn't like there were going to be 100 people for 100 spots. There were going to be thousands of people, if not even tens of thousands of people, to try and fill those hundreds of spots. What we needed to do, send in an application, and two, do a TikTok video and tag him in it. The application was okay because that's sent in private, right? And when you're sending in an application, you can always make yourself sound a little bit better than you actually are, right? That's what we all do with our resumes. Rather than saying that, we got coffee for someone, we say that we're, professional secretary or personal assistant. So you did the photocopy and got the coffee. We accept that, which is why a lot of people don't trust resumes these days or even now references. But doing the TikTok video was kind of scary because that was in public, number one. And number two, what we needed to do, basically in the TikTok video, is say why we thought we deserved to be part of the beta group. And, I did that. It was a bit confronting. I don't know if any of you saw it, because it's still on my TikTok to this day, I think. But long story short, I applied, and then there was going to be this live video where he was going to announce the 100 people that got in. And I don't have a lot of spare time, so I don't tend to tune in to people's live videos when I don't really know whether it's going to be worth watching or not. So I tuned into this one, and he had broken it down into categories. So these are the people that got in because they've had success in the past. These are the people that got in because they're in this industry. These are the people who got in, they're just newbies and we thought we'd give them a go. And you know what it's like, they let 7 in here, then 10 in there, then 5 in there, and then you're getting to 98, 99, 100. And look, long story short, I didn't get in. The funny thing was, maybe it's not so funny, but that actually hit me pretty hard, right? I was disappointed for the first time in a long time that I can remember. It's kind of like when you're on a date, when you're dating and someone rejects you. It was that kind of a feeling. It wasn't like, oh, I lost a tennis match. And okay, like losing a tennis match can be disappointing in the moment. Losing any sort of athletic event, sporting event, or let's say, I don't know, career event or financial event, those sorts of losses we can deal with. But when you're rejected on a personal level, because when you're dating and the person rejects you, it's not just rejecting, let's say, a piece of paper. It literally feels like a rejection of who you are. And that was the first thing that made this difficult. It felt like a rejection of who I was and what I'd done and what I stood for. The second thing that made it very, very difficult, at least for me, was not really knowing why I didn't make it, right? I mean, there were certain, let's say they told you things they were looking for, but it's not like you got a mark and were told, oh, okay, you didn't get in because you didn't do so well in this category or you didn't do so well in that category. So you put those two things together, and what I realized, ironically, and the reason I'm telling you this story, is that for the first time, I felt I kind of knew what it was like to lose a pageant, or to not place at a pageant, right? To not do as well as you'd like at a pageant. Because I put myself out there, right? And this is what you do in a pageant. You put yourself out there, you tell your story, and then if you don't do as well as you like, or you don't win, you don't place, it feels like a rejection of you personally, right? Not professionally, personally. And then very often what happens in the pageant industry, and I'm not personally a fan of this, you don't really get told why you lost or why you didn't place. Why did that person get in and I didn't? Let me look at the scores. Oh, okay, they did better on stage here, or, they did better in an interview there. I need to work on this area, but you don't get that in pageants. And I didn't get that with this beta group. And it can be incredibly damaging to yourself and to your mental health, because you go inside and you begin to overthink, right? You begin to relive every moment of your pageant journey, and you go, oh, if only I'd done this, or only if I'd done that, if only I dyed my hair brown, if only I cut my hair short, if only I'd worn this dress, not that dress, if only I'd spoken with this coach, if only when I was at that event, if I'd spoken to this director, not that director, and you drive yourself crazy. And then if you're a typical overthinker, the problem is you begin overthinking your overthinking, because you know you shouldn't be overthinking because you know that's bad. And now you start beating yourself up for overthinking. And that's even worse, because now you're not only overthinking, you're feeling guilty at the same time. And the issue is no one has ever thought their way out of overthinking, right? You can't think your way out of overthinking. You just need to stop. That personal rejection hits hard. It really does. As silly as it might seem to anyone else, right? If you tried to explain this to anyone else, they wouldn't understand. They'd just go, oh, you're being silly, just do it again. Or it's only a pageant, doesn't matter. No, that personal rejection hits hard. And then the double whammy of not knowing why you weren't picked, or why you didn't win, or why you didn't place, it makes it even worse. And especially when sometimes you look at things like, oh, that person got in, but she only raised £1,000 for charity, whereas I raised £2,000 for charity. So, at least at some of the objective things that I can look at, I did better in terms of being able to deal with the loss, right? And when I say deal with the loss, what I mean is you learn from it, you pick yourself up, and you're no longer really affected by it. My suggestion is this, and I've talked about this before. You need to be working on your life. And you need to have a life, a career, friendships, relationships that you're excited to go back to. Because if you don't do as well at a pageant as you'd like, and then you go back to your life, and you haven't crafted much of a life, not my judgment, but in your judgment of your life, you don't really like your career. Right, your friendship group's kind of okay, but you've had them for a long time, and they don't really push you. They're not really looking to achieve much. Your career, you're not that happy with. Let's say you're not in a relationship and you want one, or you are in a relationship and you don't want one, so that's not going so well. And you spend all your time working on your pageant, but you haven't spent any time really working on your life. You've put your life on hold for the pageant, and now you've not done as well at the pageant as you like, and you go back, you go to your hotel room, or you go to your bedroom, you sit down, and you have a bit of a cry, right? If you are going back to a life that excites you, right? You have a career that you love. You have friends who you love on every level. They're not just friends who tell you what you want to hear. They're friends that when you get around them, they make you want to be a better person. You have goals that you're excited to kick. Not just pageant goals, but goals in life, right? Career goals, health goals, whatever they are. If you have created that magnificent life that you're excited to go back to, you will process the pageant loss. Or in my case, I will process that missing out on that beta group a lot more quickly. And you don't have to have that life being perfect. That's not my point. But you want to be at least making some progress towards it. And then you'll be able to get back on the horse much more quickly and give it another go if that's what you decide to do. And that's what happened with me in terms of that beta group. As I said, it hit me hard, a lot harder than I would have liked it to. But it maybe hit hard for, let's say, a day or two. And the reason it hit me for a day or two was because I had this sort of, and I've alluded to this belief that I have in the past, and I don't know where I got it from, but this sort of belief that if I'm truly committed to something, then I will find a way to make it happen. I don't know where I got that from. And this is even in tennis. And I've spoken about this before. I had this inherent belief that if I modeled what the best players in the world did, then I would maximize my potential. And that potential, okay, I might not end up being as good as a professional player, but I could at least maximize my potential and be my version of a professional player, and I'd be happy with that. And I think this is my biggest words of wisdom for you is to, if you're disappointed, as quickly as possible, throw yourself back into working on yourself. Right? You don't need a pageant to work on yourself. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine this morning. Why you have to ask yourself, why did you want to win the pageant, or why did you want to place? And that's a very important question, because it's not like we wanted to win the pageant so we could have a crown on our head. We didn't want to win the pageant so we could have this material made of white silk that we could, put over our shoulder and it would say certain words on it, right? That's not why you wanted to win a pageant. You want to win a pageant essentially because of what you thought it would allow you to do, the opportunities it would give you, or the way it would make you feel, right? Normally, at the end of it, you want to win a pageant because it would make you feel good. At least that's what you think, right? So what feelings were you after? Oh, I wanted to win this pageant. So it's not because I wanted to win the crown. It's not because I thought I'd get to work with a certain person. I wanted to win this pageant because at the end, I thought it would help me feel like I was making a difference, right? I wanted to feel like a success. I wanted to feel whatever it is. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel acknowledged. I wanted to feel validated. I wanted to feel like I was finally enough. Now, if you can get dirt honest about why you wanted to win the pageant in terms of the emotions you thought it was going to give you, then the thing is, all the opportunities it was going to open up for you, or the difference you wanted to make. If you get clear on those reasons for why you wanted to win, then if you're honest, right, and this is where it's important that you can bounce back as quickly as possible, and that's where I think working on your life outside of pageants is a really big help, because you'll bounce back sooner. You can get that self-awareness and perspective. Okay, I wanted to win this pageant because I wanted to be able to make a difference. All right, you didn't win the pageant. Does that mean you can't make a difference? I doubt it. Right? I mean, that's complete BS, right? You can make a difference without doing a pageant. That's what most people do. Or I wanted to win this pageant because I wanted to work with this charity and do amazing work. I mean, is that option closed off to you? I mean, you can still probably work with that charity. You could still send an email to someone and get in touch. You can still make a difference. You can still be a role model. All those things, all the reasons that you probably wanted to win a pageant, the thing is that you can still do them if you get clear on what they are. And if you're, again, really dirt honest with yourself, the reason that you feel that momentary disappointment is probably because in the moment you did want the validation, right? That's probably the only thing that you can't get, let's say, straight away, because you didn't win that pageant. You don't get that validation of, yes, I was there, I was enough, I was the best, right? That acknowledgement. And that can hurt. I get it. And I think it's human to want that acknowledgement and that validation a bit. But the secret to that is that it's not really someone giving you validation that makes you feel good. It's you giving yourself the validation that ultimately makes you feel good. And what happens is, you win the pageant, or you win this sporting event, or you win this career opportunity. Let's say you get a raise, you get a particular position. What happens then is, it's not that gives you validation, right? That doesn't make you feel like you're enough. What happens is you give yourself permission to feel like you're enough. That event sends a trigger to you and you go, now I allow myself to feel like I'm enough, and then I feel good. So let's say you don't win the pageant and now you feel like you're not enough. You could look, if you're honest with yourself, you could look at the things you've got going on in your life. Even you could look at the work you put into the pageant. You could look at that and use that as a trigger to feel like you're enough. And if you really, really do that, you're going to feel the same levels of happiness or joy or pride that you would have had if you won. And this is those rare circumstances where you see people who don't win a pageant and they actually have literally no regret, no moment of disappointment. And it's kind of a rare case, but it's not a rare case because someone is genetically blessed with not having a disappointment gene. It's a rare case because I think, first off, it takes a maturity in psychology, I think, to really be able to be happy for someone else and to realize that their success is not your failure. And I think of this very particular example where, and it's with Marissa Butler, because I just interviewed her earlier this week, and she was in Miss World. and she didn't win. I mean, she did very well. She won the sports section, and she got top something or other. I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm sorry. But there's this photo where her friend Vanessa is announced as a winner, and Vanessa has the winner, the shock face, that painting, that one like that, the Home Alone when he put the cologne on. She's got that face going on, but there's this photo that's kind of iconic, and it's because you can see Marissa in the background. And I swear to God, you've never seen anyone happier for a human being than Marissa was for Vanessa at that moment in time. Now, she told the story a bit later on as to exactly how Vanessa had helped her, and she really thought Vanessa was the right person to win. As to why she was happy, the story came out a little bit later, but there's no trace of disappointment on Marissa's face when Vanessa is announced as the winner. All you can see is a victory celebration, right? It looks like she's just won an Olympic gold. And that is a rarity, I think, but I don't think it has to be. And is Marissa unusual? Is she unique in her psychology? She definitely is outstanding. And she's got a lot going on in her life. She's a high achiever. This is what I keep saying. Got to work on your life. Be happy with your life. But when you don't see someone else's victory as your failure, when you put in everything that you can, and when your goals on the pageant were to feel like enough, not because you won, but because you put in so much work and you evolved as a woman throughout that process. You started off as one person and you became another person because of your hard work, your perseverance, overcoming all those fears, right? You felt those fears and you did it anyway. If you can really, really connect to that, you're not going to feel that disappointment that a lot of other people do, such as myself. I mean, when I didn't get into the beta group, I certainly didn't know the people who'd got in. So it was kind of hard to celebrate for them. But my point is, you have to have this inherent belief that whatever it is you're going after, it's like they say, you want to fixate on your purpose, but you want to be flexible on how you get there. And if you have that momentary delusion that because you didn't win the pageant, suddenly you can't achieve your goals, you just need to realize that it is a delusion. Your goals, no matter what your goals are, you can achieve them with or without the pageant. And if you say, oh, but my goal is to win Miss Universe and I didn't win Miss Universe, so that's not closed off to me. Yeah, your goal wasn't to win Miss Universe, though, as I said. What did you think Miss Universe was going to give you? An opportunity to work with, let's say, a modeling agency, an opportunity to do this trip, to do this, to do that, to make a difference. I will bet you, if you're honest and willing to do the internal work and not feel sorry for yourself, I will bet you can come up with 100,000 ways of still getting those things that you want in spite of the pageant. And look, to be completely honest, sometimes it's easier to do it without the pageant. Because when you do have that title, there are certain things that you can do, certain things that you can't do, a certain way that you have to be. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's the way it has to be, right? You're now held up as a role model, and there's certain things that you can't do, certain ways you can't act. When you don't have that title, sometimes you're freer to act. You don't need to get a director's permission or a director's checking to make sure everything is okay. So sometimes not winning the pageant could be the biggest blessing that you ever get. So those are just some thoughts on dealing with a loss. And as I said, me not getting to that beta group, I finally felt that I knew what it was like not to win a pageant. And it is because you put yourself out there personally, and sometimes you lose and you have no idea why. I get it. It can suck. But my advice to you is make sure you go back to working on yourself. My advice would be in the lead up to the pageant or before the pageant, it'd be better if you're in a good place. And if you're not really in a good place, at least be making progress towards being in a good place. But work on yourself. Work on not being happy, but being fulfilled. You're not going to be happy every day of your life. But if you can be fulfilled and find some deep meaning in your life, that's going to carry you through. And then if you really, really work on that, and you're invested in the journey, not the destination, and that's what I talked about when I talked about that book, Mindset, by Dr. Dweck, that growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, if you can fixate on the journey of becoming the woman that you want to be, then not winning the pageant, it's not going to be an end. All it is going to be a detour. And you probably, okay, that plan A didn't work out, but if you're honest about it, you'll have plan B, C, D, E through Z quickly. And if you have that life that you love, you find fulfilling, you're going to be able to get back on the horse and start going for your goals pretty quickly. Yes, you'll be disappointed for 5 minutes, 5 hours, a couple of days, as I was, but it's not going to be terminal. So in terms of dealing with a loss, that's my suggestion for you. I hope that helps. There are a lot of people out and about. They're all staring at me as usual. It seems like all I need to do to make people come out in public is turn on this camera, turn on my phone, start videoing, and everyone comes out. I swear to God, there was no one here before. Now there are people cycling up the street. There's a couple standing up there just in the middle of the road. I don't know why. But we've just come out of lockdown here in Sydney, so it's understandable. Like, all the kids are out and about coming to summer, so it's actually great to see. But that's how I would deal with a loss. And I say that as I feel some sort of empathy towards you guys now. I feel some sort of connection. I know what it's like to lose something that you really want, and it feels like a personal rejection, and you don't really know why, and then you overthink it. Those are my tips. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode.